welcome to Jurassic Park for a minute. We're discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel, 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're here to end out the week with minute 67 of Jurassic Park 3. But before we get to that, David, this might be the largest article that I've found to date on Jurassic-Pedia.com. It's a full write-up on pretty much the history of Jurassic World on Isla Nublar, going all the way back from its inception, including a lot of the, or all of the DPG stuff that sort of filled in a lot of the backstory as well.
And it used to be larger. This was an article that we actually split off recently from the main Jurassic Park Isla Nublar website. Article. It was basically a huge article. We just had to split it up, and we give thanks to Troodon Formosus for doing that for us. He's been a great help on this, on the whole website, basically. If it wasn't for him and everybody else working on it for us, we basically wouldn't have the expansive website or expansive articles that we do.
Yeah, there is a lot here. Just all the different sectors of the island, and of course each of those, or a lot of the items are starting to have their own articles sort of added.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, your sector one's got the ferry landing monorail, ferry landing station, and the golf course, and they've all got their own articles so far linked in, and more articles will come online. But the website will feature the article that we're about to report.
Yeah, it's got the, like you said, it's got the sectors, areas with location lists, and that's pretty much something that's standard to all of our location articles. Sorna has one, the Jurassic Park Nublar has one, and so basically it goes through all the various locations that are on the island under Jurassic World instead of under Jurassic Park and Jurassic World.
Even going to any history and conception of Jurassic World, going all the way back to the disaster of Jurassic Park 3 and InGen's failure to get Jurassic Park San Diego back up, and all the stuff with Masrani coming in.
Well, arguably the attempt at whatever you call that Jurassic Park The Lost World little trip was to bring back Jurassic Park as Jurassic Park San Diego. That was basically the first iteration of Jurassic World. It was the first attempt to get the park back on its feet, and as we saw in the second movie, a failure.
Yep. It's still scrolling down. There's a lot of information here.
Oh yeah.
Rainy day on the weekend, grab a cup of coffee or a hot Milo and or hot chocolate, and head over to Jurassic-Pedia.com and have a read through, because there's a lot of stuff here that's been compiled onto this article.
Jurassic-Pedia basically tries to be the biggest, most comprehensive encyclopedia on the franchise, so this article is a great example of that. It's very, very comprehensive.
Yep. Fantastic. It's great to see.
Let's do this one at a time, shall we?
Alright, Dave, ready to get into minute 67?
Yeah.
As we enter minute 66 in Jurassic Park 3, Paul got one of the outboard motors going and started driving the boat downriver. Up on the bow, Erica told Grant that he was sorry about Billy, and Grant realised that Billy was just Billy, that he was young. As we start on minute 67, Grant tells Eric that he theorises there's two types of boys. One that wants to be an astronaut, and one that wants to be an astronomer. The astronomer, or in this case a paleontologist, wants to study everything from safety, yet the astronaut wants to go into space. And Eric says he'd want to go to space too. Grant says it's the difference between seeing and being able to touch, and that's what Billy wanted. At the 35-second mark, an orange glow comes across Eric's face as he sees something wonderful on the riverbank. He slowly stands, and softly says, "Dr. Grant," and Alan stands with him and turns. At the 41-second mark, the Jurassic Park theme begins to play, as we cut to a shot across the river, as brachiosaurs graze on the riverbank. Stegosaurs are eating grass further away. Two parasaurolophus are making their way towards the river, and an ankylosaur drinking from the bank. At the 52-second mark, Paul leaves the console behind and stares out in amazement with Amanda at the sight before them. And as the minute ends, the closest brachiosaur starts to walk along the riverbank and lowers its head towards the visitors that are drifting past. As we continue in the 67, Grant starts his theory on boys. I have a theory. There are two types of boys, those that want to be astronomers and those that want to be astronauts. The astronomer, the paleontologist, gets to study these amazing things from complete safety. Eric sort of catches on to what he's talking about here because he says, but then you won't get to go into space. And Grant nods and says exactly, it's the difference between imagining, seeing, being able to touch them, and it's all that Billy wanted. Which, you can sort of take that back to when Grant's on Nublar too, back in Jurassic Park, where all of a sudden he's the astronaut and not the astronomer.
Yeah, that's true, and I was thinking basically how that's basically Hammond's thing too. How Billy is as the astronaut is basically Hammond as the astronaut. He wants to see and touch something that's actually real, not just something that you can observe.
Yeah, that goes back to there as well. I didn't realise, I didn't remember that, but yeah. And it's sort of interesting. I've done a bit of a quick Google search on if children still want to be astronauts, and surprisingly there was a study done. There's a link here to 14 News. When the 5th anniversary of Apollo 11 come up last month, and they'd done a bit of a survey between China, United Kingdom and United States children, and some interesting results. More would prefer to be bloggers or vloggers or YouTube personalities than astronauts now. Unless you're in Japan, where 56% of not Japan, China. 56% of children in China still want to be an astronaut when they grow up, compared to about 11% in the United Kingdom, and the same in America. So it's just a different, like a generation ago, that was completely the other way around, where going to space and being an astronaut was the number one thing that children wanted to grow up and be. But I wonder if that's more so the fact that America doesn't really have a space program at the moment with NASA and funding being pulled and all that, whereas China, I think they're still planning on getting back to the moon next year or something. So, of course, there's a whole industry there that children want to get into.
But also, I think it has to do with the fact that the YouTube star is basically now the new instant celebrity. Whereas when I was a kid, you basically, if you want to be the instant celebrity, you joined a boy band. And now if you want to be an instant celebrity, you just get on YouTube and start looking for things to trying everything to become that 15 seconds of fame, Yeah. I think that it'd be more fair to ask the question, would you rather be a movie star or a YouTube star, or would you rather be a movie star or a astronaut? Because, I mean, basically, a YouTube star is this generation's movie star,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a completely different tangent when we go down. Just even now, like so many people starting their own YouTube. We know last time Jay was on, he was talking about doing those videos and unboxings and that, and it's a very hard market to get into now. YouTube's changed all their monetization, and so it's nowhere near as profitable as what it used to be. People that used to do it as a career now have had to go out and get a job and do it do it back as a hobby again. And podcasting's sort of the same thing too. For the majority, and for us, this is a hobby. We love the franchise and love hear you talking about it, so it's fine. And whereas others, they monetize, they have ads and everything.
It doesn't hurt
well.
that it's a good resume building thing. I won't deny I put this podcast on my resume just as an example of, hey, I've done radio. Look at me. Look at what I can do.
Yeah.
And hire me.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And we should have shouted out at the start of the show, but Chartable, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where it shows me all the international reviews and that sort of stuff, 34? I can't remember now. Has
39. You
oh,
told
top
me.
40. Yeah. At number 39 in the US for film reviews, which is amazing. Thank you to all the US listeners that have made that possible. Now that
Top 40 is a very, very impressive listing. I mean, that's basically, or I mean, that would basically be on the radio if they still did podcasts on the radio. You know?
insert Casey Kasem's top 40. Here we go with another movie. Oh, I can't do it for the life of me, so I'm not going to keep on doing it. But yeah, that's just coming from their website now. It might not be accurate. I don't know, but looking at the Podbean downloads, we're definitely the US is our biggest listener. So, and there's people everywhere: Germany, Norway, Japan. Hello, everyone. It's a conversation I'd love to have. We know watching these films, we know what Sam Neill sounds like. We know what Roland Turnbow, when he's doing that fantastic introduction in The Lost World, it's just made so much better by Pete Postlethwaite, the actor, speaking in some of these countries where English isn't the first language and the films are dubbed at the cinema. It just sort of blows my mind that you're not hearing Sam Neill as Grant, or you're not hearing these actors in their own voice. You're hearing someone else speak for them in the language of the country the movie's being released in. It just it's amazing.
Well, it's the same thing when you do like a lot of Godzilla movies are dubbed or subbed, and that's a big argument in the Godzilla fandom. Do you prefer subtitles or do you prefer a dub?
Yeah.
And personally, I would prefer subtitles because you get a more accurate sense of what they're saying than when they try to dub it into English, and they just basically, a lot of times, they just change the sentence entirely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Looking at that other way, I used to watch Dragon Ball Z as a teenager, and still watch some episodes every now and then. And same thing there, like you're hearing the voice of the actors, and that's all been dubbed for the Western release. So I can definitely see your point there. But I think that's a big enough tangent for all that. There's not a lot happening this minute, so we did need to pad it out a little bit. But back on the boat, suddenly we get a production light shine into Eric's face, and the score starts to change as Eric sees something wonderful up ahead. And I say production light or stage light because behind Grant you can see the foliage is still dark, so I'm not quite sure where this sunlight's coming from. But he slowly stands and says, "Dr. Grant," and then we cut back to a shot from the other side of the riverbank, seemingly, and the boat sort of comes out from behind a cluster of trees, which are in the open, so there should have been light on them before, but as the boat drifts downstream, we can see several animals grazing up on the grassy plain. Yeah, we've the main animal here we see, which we talked a lot about back in early minutes with the plane flyover, is this brachiosaurus, which a lot different colour than what we're used to.
Mm-hmm. Now, personally, I always felt that this brachiosaur here was the male, and that the red crest, because there's a variation in how much red crest is actually, or how much red is on the crest of some of these animals. Some of them have very little, some of them have a lot. And I always thought that was kind of like bighorn rams, where you some have very big horns and are more dominant in the herd than others. And I always felt that like the one we get here with a lot of red is getting the good pick of the water is the alpha male, where you can see that it's basically a bachelor herd.
Yeah.
That's real well known with elephants, where the females kick the males out of the herd once they reach puberty, and basically they form their own herd of all males.
Yeah, well, that was going to be the question here, because we got the big one close to the bank here, and there's another one off to the left, sort of grazing from a tree, and one further off in the distance too, and they all seem to be the same colour, that green pattern. You obviously can't see the colour of the heads on most of them, just because of I can't in this photo anyway, because of the size of it. But as the boat sort of drifts down, we do get a fourth one as well. So there are a few here, and Yeah, I've always thought that, yeah, definitely going for that male. We're seeing different colorization than what we had earlier with the females in Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got some of the other species in here as well. I think it's interesting you have like a teenage Stegosaurus, and it's kind of bulky, kind of somewhat like the baby, and its its plate shape isn't the same as the adults that are behind it.
No, it doesn't look as pointy.
No, they're not. They're more rounded and not as triangular.
Yeah.
And I remember on Jurassic Park Legacy there was another little thing that happened. I remember that if you look at the Brachiosaurus in the back behind the Parasaurolophus, the model deforms. It's kind of funny because for a split second it becomes an Apatosaurus. This is an Apatosaurus with splayed legs.
Oh, wow. I'm just going through the screenshots. Yeah. That's interesting. Also, too, you mentioned the Parasaurolophus. In the script? No, where is it down there? Oh, yeah, in the script, it says that there's duck-billed, help me out there, Coryphosaurs?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're, but these are definitely Parasaurolophus here, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the green ones that we saw among the herd earlier in the movie.
And as the boat drifts down a little bit further here too, we get the one ankylosaur drinking from the river, and the other one sort of walking back up away from the banks. Which, again, we sort of mentioned back when we seen those in the jungle, just how the deep red and the different colour, the different contrasting colours between them, and not the brachiosaurs here and the stegosaurs we get. Because the stegosaurs are pretty much that classic green we've seen in The Lost World.
Yeah. And it's interesting because those ankylosaurs, before the scene was going to end, I guess they kind of decided it would be better to end it on the brachiosaurus roaring at the camera. But those ankylosaurs were to cross the river and splash everybody as they moved across. There's still CG models for it, but they're left unfinished.
Oh, wow.
And interestingly, in concept art for this movie, for the scene where the barge is going down the river, you can actually see it almost looks like something out of Jurassic World, where the brachiosaurus enter the river and the boat just quietly glides past them. But in the background of the concept art, off to the side, you can see 3 Spinosaurus. So the one Spinosaurus wasn't going to be solo act in this movie.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It'd make sense why it keeps on coming back at certain points in the film if it was the same creature, if it was obviously more than one.
Mm-hmm.
Because that gets me into another question too. Do you think we're back in the same area that they flew over in the plane, or is there just a lot of brachiosaurs on this island?
And there might just be a lot of brachiosaurus. It could be I don't think it's the area they flew over in the plane, because we didn't see a river area in that part.
Yeah.
But interestingly, it's actually the same area that they pass when the stampede happens. You can see the same mountain range behind them as when they were running into the running into the forest. Interestingly, this is filmed on Jurassic Kahili Ranch on Kauai, and so it's also the same place where we get that first herd shot in Jurassic World.
Mm.
You can if you look for it, this mountain range is so far in 3 of the 5 movies. It's in the first movie. You can see it behind Grant when he stands up in the Jeep when he sees the Brachiosaurus. It's in the 3rd movie several times, including this scene, and then it's in the 4th movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not I don't believe it's in the 5th movie. They didn't return to Kauai for that movie, so yeah, it's in 3 of the 5 movies across 2 islands.
And interestingly, not as much recognised by fans and others as Gallimamus Valley.
And unfortunately, so I always personally preferred Jurassic Kahili Ranch just because I thought it was more pretty.
Yeah.
And it was where the where we first ever saw brachiosaurs in the movies.
Well, it makes sense for an open plain with herbivores, this grass and the stands of trees sort of on the sides where, like we mentioned back when we done the flyover, it almost looked like the fences had been CG'd out of where this ranch would be an active ranch and you'd have cattle here instead of the herbivores. But
and it is an active ranch.
Yeah. It just makes more sense for a dinosaur park for Nublar and here where you're going to have more animals in these open plains than you are on extremely rocky volcanic cliffs.
I kind of felt that they utilized too much volcanic mountains in the new movie.
Yeah.
Or in the movies, I should say.
Yeah, especially Sauna. If you're going to have the rocky rim around the outside as a barrier like you did in the novel, then it's fine. But considering all that stuff's supposed to be interior shots of the island, like we've been over this before. There's a high percentage of the island that's not usable because of the mountain ranges. But I also love here too. We get the birds back. We get a couple of flocks of those white birds.
Yeah, actually, on the Jurassic Pedia article, this is the scene I screen capped those white birds out of.
Yep.
For the because it's basically the best shot that we ever get of the white birds in any of these movies.
Mm. Yeah, when the Spinosaur comes out of the jungle chasing them, it's pretty quick. They sort of flutter into the air pretty quickly, and you don't really it's hard to get a screen cap.
Yeah.
Paul and Amanda sort of notice what's going on here as well as we get that JP theme come in and play